Imagine having your life, your culture, and your values swept right out from under your feet without any warning. What would you do if one day you were living your everyday normal life and the next you were fighting for your family, your life, and everything that you stand for? This is exactly what happened to the Native Americans in what is now the United States when the Europeans came over and settled. They had to learn a new way of life and try to heal and accept that their lives were never going to be the same. According to the History Channel at history.com, Native Americans were divided into 10 different culture groups. The first one is the Arctic. They were near the Arctic Circle, which is now considered Alaska, Canada, and Greenland. And this culture area involved the Inuit and the Aleut Native Americans. The subarctic, which was inland Alaska and Canada, included the Beaver, the Ingallik, the Ojibwa, and the Naskapi. The northeast culture, which was Canada's Atlantic coast to North Carolina and inland to the Mississippi River Valley. Tribes there included the Fox, the Shawnee, the Delaware, and the Menominee. The southeast culture, which was from the north of Gulf Mexico and south of the northeast, included the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, and the Creek. The plains were between the Mississippi River, the Rocky Mountains, and from present-day Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. Included in this were tribes of the Crow, Blackfeet, and Cheyenne. Next were the Southwest culture, which went from present-day Arizona, or which was in present-day Arizona and New Mexico, and here were the Navajo and the Apache. The Great Basin, which was an expansive bowl formed by the Rocky Mountains to the east, the Sierra Nevadas to the west, the Columbia Plateau to the north, and the Colorado Plateau to the south. And in here were the Ute and the Bannock. And then over in California, where they had over 100 different tribes, and they estimated over 300,000 Native Americans alone in just that state before Europeans came over and settled. Then there was the Northwest Coast, which was along the Pacific coast, and in this involved the Nootka and the Waukesha. And then the 10th culture would be the Plateau area, and that was at the intersection of the subarctic, the plains, the Great Basin, California, and the Northwest Coast. And tribes that were involved in that were the Klamath, the Walla Walla, and the Yakima. Although the Native American population was very difficult to put a number on, especially before colonization, but people were able to estimate that there were about 10 million Native Americans in the United States alone, and some even said up to 15 million. But that number only got smaller as time went on, because from the 16th century to the 19th centuries, population of Native Americans was ravaged by European colonization. Violence, possible genocide, epidemic diseases that were brought from Europe, displacement from their land, enslavement, and internal welfare were all part of this so-called colonization. In 1830, the United States Congress passed the Indian Removal Act, which authorized treaties to exchange Native American land that was east of the Mississippi River for land that was west of the Mississippi River. And then at that time, around 100,000 Native Americans from the east side of the Mississippi River were forced to relocate. And if they didn't relocate, many of them were killed. This is a visual of the thousands of miles Native Americans had to travel on the Trail of Tears. This relocation involved the deadly journey that we now know as the Trail of Tears. In 1838 and 1839 was when the Native Americans were forced to relocate, and they were relocated to Indian Territory on the west side of the Mississippi River. An estimated 4,000 Native Americans died from hunger, exposure, and disease. And that was according to the Cherokee Nation at www.cherokee.org. Native Americans had now been taken from their homes, stripped of their customs and their values, and even forbidden to speak their native languages. Children were taken away from their homes and taken to boarding schools where they were civilized, in what they said, and forced to abandon their heritage. In 1876, the government forced Native Americans to live on reservations where the majority of Native Americans still reside today. The hardships and the struggle that Native Americans went through to be where they are at today is unbelievable and nothing that we could compare to in our lives. So it's hard to think about what these people went through and what it would have been like. And we need to just remember that if it weren't for these people, who knows what our nation would be like by now. There are some Native Americans who are out there still, who are here to preserve Native American history and preserve the way that they live their lives. And it's such an important role that they have played because, like I said, it's the development of our nation.